It was a terrible, atrocious weekend at the box office, so bad that it puts itself in a place of history, perhaps. One of the top 10 worst attended box offices in the last 20 years. But folks, we have good news because we're here to tell you that's actually not a bad thing. And by the end of the video, you just might agree. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we endeavor to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve, and someone great at doing that is Spencer back again. Of course, he is the editor-in-chief of Bounding Into Comics. And Spencer, it's a joy to have you back on the channel.
You know what I'm going to say, Pro. It's always a pleasure to be here, always a pleasure to hang out with you, always a pleasure to talk. So, I'm stoked to be here.
Well, let's get to talking. And at first, folks, this is going to look really, really bad. And it is bad. And I just want to say that if things don't turn around, then your local movie theater is going to go out of business. We are headed for a seismic Kmart and Sears kinds of situation, even perhaps Circuit City. But I don't suspect that that's going to happen. I suspect that we are going to see a turnaround because of how many companies are desperate to do so. Let's take a look at this weekend, though. For February 23rd, the weekend we just came out of, Spencer, usually when we have a bad box office, I just want to put this in context. Usually, what that looks like on a really bad box office is we'll come on the channel and say, well, folks, here's the math for the movies this week. We've got two films that barely broke $20 million at the domestic box office, and that's really bad. How about a weekend where we barely broke $10 million with two movies? And then, if that wasn't bad enough, the drop-off is significant below. So we've got Bob Marley, One Love, which has 13 million in its gross for the weekend. It's still at 71 million, so I think they're going to take that as a win. Paramount has to think a biopic that does that. Probably a win, especially when you include international. Demon Slayer pulls in 11 million, and the big thing to look here at is theaters continue to underestimate these anime pieces. The number of theaters, 1,900.
Look at that. So small.
Look at the per theater number, Spencer. 5,900, almost $6,000 per theater. And you got to think that theater owners are going to have to begin finding any way they can to get out of these contracts that hold them back from putting these kinds of films in more theaters. Then we get the drop off.
It's sort of the thing we saw with -1, right? Godzilla, where they underestimate how many people want to see these movies. They end up doing gangbusters, and now we will probably see Demon Slayer get an extended run, or at least another weekend or two.
Another example, Spencer, Return of the Jedi was a film that was on almost no theaters, and yet it had the highest per screen intake, and maybe one of the highest we've ever seen. But Ordinary Angels, I want to say I've heard wonderful things about this movie. It's the premiere, and I think Ordinary Angels is leaning towards the faith-based crowd. And so $6.5 million, I don't think is embarrassing. It's not bad. It's not great. It's not bad. And then we get into areas that are
faith-based leaning film, like those just not insulting anybody or criticizing anybody's faith. Those just tend to not do as well at the box office. They tend to find life on home video and
well, their box office is kind of the icing, right? It's the
exactly
frosting on top, whatever they made the box office, because they're going to make a lot of money in the post theatrical.
Right. But so that's what I'm saying. Like 6.5, still pretty good for what it is. Not bad.
There's no way, Spencer, to spin Madam Web. This is a total failure. A 61% drop from what was already terrible. And look at the contractual obligation that we have to assume exists for the theaters. They are forced to keep this sucker on there. 4,000 screens and only $1,400 per screen. Well, we'll give it the bump. $1,500 per screen. We'll round it up to $5,000. $1,500 per screen. This is just a terrible situation for everybody involved. And I think, Spencer, that it may be the end of the MCU because after the Marvels, now this, you got to think that both Disney and Sony are looking at this and saying, listen, guys, we're trying to pull this movie across the line. Guys are doing it. Girls are not. Why are we still making girl comic book movies when girls don't want to come see them? And that's really
we did get that recent announcement out of Amazon that they or not announcement, but rumor, quote, we know how it is in this industry, right? Rumor from sources, but that Amazon fired its entire writers room for Silk Spider Society in order to retool that show to a more male skewing audience, which is like, duh, we've been telling you this since the very, very, very beginning. Where have you guys been?
Well, Spencer, it's sort of like if you put out a new Barbie movie, like a Barbie sequel or a Barbie spinoff, and don't even make it about Ken, just make it a Barbie sequel or spinoff that tries to attract men. Like, this works in both directions. This is not rocket science.
Oh, so you want Terminator Dark Fate, you want Captain Marvel, you want
Right. That's not going to work because men are not going to go support that in vast numbers that you need. It can be a niche film, it can be a low budget film, right. A big blockbuster, it cannot. And we all know this. We all have known it for, decades and decades. And it seems like the effort to drive that square peg into the round hole, that's not going to keep going on, I don't think, from the studios. Sony's not going to put up with it. And Disney seems to be making the pivot. At least that's what we heard from that executive who was not very happy with Bob Iger because he allegedly is getting ready to pivot to giving the audience what they want. We'll see how that goes. Spencer, your thoughts on this terrible box office, because we need to put this in the past, but before we do, put the bow on it for us, Spencer. What went wrong?
Obviously, what went wrong here was that studios got too full of themselves. They thought that they knew better. They thought that they knew how to handle everything. They thought that, hiring really inexperienced young writers, that's going to pull everybody in. This is going to be great. And in the end, they chased trends. That's pretty much what it was, right? Any trend that came along in Hollywood, whether it was diversity and inclusion or representation, or those are the same things, but you guys all know whatever pet subject of the day comes up, that's what they would pivot to. And that just takes you far, 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 far away from whatever the core of that property is supposed to be, right? Even if we don't look at superheroes, I brought up Terminator Dark Fate a second ago. That's sort of the same thing, right? We had this franchise that started off as humanity versus machines. Oh, the desperation of war, the sci-fi-ness of the future. And now we're starting to get, or at least we were getting, I don't know if they're pivoting now, considering how bad the last projects did, but with Genesis and Dark Fate, you started getting the female empowerment narratives. There's an illegal immigration narrative in Dark Fate. And it's just like, you guys are jumping to every possible thing, looking for something that's going to hit with your audiences, when in reality, it was already hitting. We already had what we wanted, right? When it comes to these franchises, the superhero-ness of Marvel, the sci-fi-ness of Terminator, that's what people like, regardless of gender or demographics. So all the female comic book fans who existed way before the MCU, they didn't need to be pandered to. They liked what they were reading for what it was. If they wanted a romance-centric story, or if they wanted a more slice of life, down to earth story, there were avenues for them to go get that. And that's what made everything successful. But nowadays, when you try to make everything into everything, you lose sight of what people liked about it. So it just becomes another noise. It just becomes Zack Snyder Justice League visual noise jumping into your face all the time.
That's right. And I would also say, Spencer, to add on to that very excellent analysis, that in 2024, because of the Hollywood strikes, you don't have multiple opportunities in any month to capture an audience. Like, you get the one movie, the one blockbuster per month that you're going to get this year. And if Madam Web falls apart, then that's it for February. February is gone for theaters, and that's why theaters are at the edge of collapse. That of course, is no good, but that is where we are, I think, at this point. And Spencer, I want to show you why I think that we're about to get a turnaround to this. Hopefully, and we have to hope so that we can save the theaters. Otherwise, they are indeed going the way of Circuit City. But let's turn now, Spencer, to what Mexican Iron Man had to say about the situation.
My favorite YouTuber.
Yeah, with Dune 2. Well, he says he's not a YouTuber. He says he is a non-tuber, I guess. Valiant called him a trans-tuber. I don't know what that means. But anyway, here is the video, a clip of it about what Mexican Iron Man thinks coming out of Dune 2.
Okay, I'm not a YouTuber, but Mexican Iron Man is out of the just got out of Dune and IMAX. Holy hell, it was amazing. 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know, maybe a 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Do go and see this movie. Buy your tickets now. Watch it in IMAX. Watch it with an awesome sound system. Do not wait for streaming. You got to get out there. Pro tip, do not drink an extra large soda or a bottle of water before you go in there, because you do not want.
Oh, listen to Mike. Listen to Mike whining about bladder size. I've never heard anything
look at
sad
me.
in my life.
Body is perfectly functioning. How dare I?
Spencer, you and me, we could drink a 72 ounce with no problem and sit through it. We're men, I tell you.
We're real moviegoers. We care about cinema here, bro.
Well, Spencer, here's why I'm optimistic. It's because it turns out once again, and I know this is going to be shocking to everybody out there, and I know there's going to be like hour-long analysis from some of the people who are on the opposite end of this, trying to explain with deep trigonometry what's going on. It turns out that audiences like good movies. And it turns out that studios can make a lot of money if they make good movies. So, Spencer, here's why I'm excited. Because you turned out to be exactly right on this. So we've had a fun yin and yang, because I think at this point we can agree that I was semi-right on the Elon Musk situation with Gina Carano. But
absolutely.
I also have to admit,
is that why I'm here? Do I only come back to this channel just to be harangued?
Well, I'll harangue myself now. But it turns out that you were exactly right on the Dune situation. At least it seems that way, because everybody I trust is now praising this movie to the heavens. And what that means to me is that whereas I was very worried about the month of March for the box office, now we've at least got one film that I think has a shot at $1 billion box office. So, Spencer, tell us why you're excited to go see Dune 2. What is it about this franchise that you think is going to potentially turn things around?
So honestly, what I think is going to turn the box, or like just sort of Hollywood around, hopefully, again, we're being really optimistic here. You know, we could sit here all day and doom and gloom like we normally do, but we're trying to be a little bit positive here. I'm hoping that the takeaway from Dune, both parts of them, is that people not only want accurate, adaptations, when it comes to that, they want to see the stories they've seen before brought to the screen as accurately as possible, with as few concessions as you have to make, right? We know that sometimes you have to make some changes just because mediums are different and all that, but we want them to be as small as possible. Making a concession when you take a novel to the screen, right? And you cut a very long chapter that's maybe just a description of how the character sleeps in his bed. Okay, we can all understand that. We don't need to sit there. We've only got limited time in movies, so on and so forth.
Every second matters.
Right, exactly. But when you're going, we are replacing that with a narrative about he can't sleep because he saw social injustices when he was a child and that keeps him up forever. It's like, no. That's not what we're looking. That's not the changes we're okay with, right? We're not here for you to overwrite the original thing from another author with your own pet projects. Again, shout out to, oh my gosh, I always forget his name nowadays, or his last name, but the comic owner out of, oh my gosh, the one who talked to Mark Millar and coined cancel pigs. He always has the best quote that I always go back to on this, which is, when we're reading a Captain America comic book, we don't care about what you would do if you were Steve Rogers as Captain America. We want to know what Steve Rogers would do as Steve Rogers as Captain America.
Exactly.
So I think the two-part Dune adaptations are going to, really reinforce that we want good adaptations. But on the other side of it, it's just going to reinforce that we want filmmakers who really care about their craft, whether that's an adaptation, whether that's an entirely new project. We don't want people who are cynical coming in and trying to subvert everything because they think it's so stupid or they think they can do it better. When Denis Villeneuve looks at Dune, he goes, I want to honor this. I want to, share the same level of excitement and wonder I got reading the book. He's not going in going, this book was good. I know why people like this book. But the people who, this is a very icky book. This has some really bad themes. We need to, sit everybody down in the theater. And
oh my gosh.
How dare you?
Time.
And it's just like, he doesn't get caught up in that. He goes, okay, this is what I'm working with. We're going to work with it. And it's really refreshing, because I definitely feel like Denis I wouldn't go so far as to say he's like an old school filmmaker, but it's very reminiscent of that older 90s-ish, early 2000s-ish mentality of, more artistic directors where they went, yeah, I'm going to take a swing on this thing. I really like it. I know it might not be mainstream appeal, but I'm going to take a swing on it. I hope you're coming along for the ride with me. So hopefully that signals everything. And I think by, Mexican Iron Man's reaction, everybody else's reaction that, I've also seen a bunch of people in our sphere having this sort of reaction to
you and I both were taken aback by Robert Meyer Burnett's assessment, which was just stellar.
It.
Yes.
It's clear that people at the end of the day, I know this is not okay. I'm going to blow everybody's mind, but
go for it, Spencer. Do it.
I know, bro, but everybody brace yourselves. People just want entertaining movies. Sometimes they don't even need to be good. They just want to make sure it was made with the intent to entertain you. And Denis doing it. That's why
right.
It's not just the hardcore niche Dune fans who are going out to see this. Because admittedly, Dune is a very dense like sci-fi property, but you've got everybody, normies, general audiences, however you want to describe them. Everybody wants to see this movie to round out the duology.
That's right. We need Dune 2 to do well, to save theaters. We also, by the way, really would love to see the next Ghostbusters film be good and do good because, again, we need to save theaters. Theaters are at the edge of collapse.
That would be nice.
There's two big lessons coming, folks, and that is, one, that if Hollywood makes a really good movie, audiences really will support it. And the other lesson coming is that Hollywood still can make good movies. At least we hope. Full review of Dune 2 is coming later this week here on this channel. It is our official policy that we never review a movie until wide release. Thus, we never give any kind of inclination that there might be a quid pro quo. Sometimes that does disadvantage us, and we don't hold that against anyone else who does other things. And by the way, it was released on IMAX for a special showing yesterday, so those people got it through legitimate means. We're just going to wait until it's available to the full public before we do it here. But folks, we hope that you will go check out Bounding Into Comics and follow Spencer along in everything that he does. Fantastic analysis that you will not find anywhere else. Also, folks, you now join in with us. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms, it's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below, let us know your thoughts. And will you be going to see Dune 2 now that it has the full ringing endorsement of the most important man on YouTube? Mexican Iron Man.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's it for us today. We hope you had a great time. We hope we elucidated a bit of extra information about how entertainment works. Have a wonderful day today. Go out there and make someone's life better. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
This is Wilton the Troll reporting for That's Park Place, and I'm surrounded by loving and adoring people who are peacefully trying to make sure that poor kids aren't cold in the winter. And just behind me, you can see a totally natural bonfire for baking cookies or making marshmallows.
Yeah, so, Wilton, we really appreciate the effort and stuff, but we're looking for real and, accurate news reporting on that Park Place.
So not like most news outlets, huh?
No.